This episode of the Better Every Shift podcast is brought to you by Lexipol, the experts in policy, training, wellness support, and grants assistance for first responders and government leaders. To learn more, visit lexipol.com. That's Lexipol.com. Now let's get into the show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Better Every Shift podcast. My name is Aaron Zamzo. I am a fire lieutenant now in Madison, Wisconsin. I'm also a writer and contributor to Fire Rescue One. And with me on this podcast, as always, I am giving her promotion up to the colonel now, Colonel Janelle Fosquet. How are we doing today, Janelle?
I'm doing great. How are you, Aaron?
I'm good. Don't you like I just automatically give you a promotion because
I know, appreciate it. Thank you
I
so
do
much.
have to say you were just awarded some editorial awards for all your work in the past year of Fire Rescue One. I want to congratulate you there. We also have a podcast, which we're on right now, that got an honorable mention, and that is pretty much because of you. Anybody behind the scenes knows it's not because of me, but it really comes down to those people reading and listening. But I wanted to congratulate you for all your hard work. Along with us, though, of course, is our guest today. And today we're blessed, actually, with Battalion Chief Lauran McColloh. She is got a fascinating story, and she is just a very interesting individual, very smart. We are happy to have you here, Chief. How are you today?
You're doing great. I hope you guys are.
Yes. Janelle, of course, gets caught off guard when I embarrass her with all the different accolades that she gets, but she is very good and is a driving force behind this and getting you here. And your story is, we're going to dig into it, but I want to set the table a little bit, give people a little bit of a background about you. You are in Salisbury Fire Department. You actually report to Chief Nick Martin, who is also a friend of the show here, and you're very passionate about building relationships and really getting the most out of your team, and that's rooted in some of your early experiences within the fire service. And your fire service experience actually started in 2007 as a fire control specialist, and then you worked your way through the ranks of, firefighter, engineer, lieutenant, captain, and now you're a BC. You just got your undergraduate degree in fire and emergency management, and you seem to just be continually growing and developing as a leader and as an individual. And it all started on a fateful day, way back when you began kind of in the fire service in the front lines. Before we tackle that, just give me a little idea what actually got you interested in the fire service to begin with.
I started actually when I was 14 as a junior firefighter in one of our local volunteer houses. I saw the ambulance go by and thought, man, that's what I want to do. We had one training where it was EMT training, my very first one. I loved it. And then after that, it started fire training, and I fell in love with it. So after that, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. So the moment I turned 18, that's when I started it.
So you started in the fire control side at age 18. And then when did you get into firefighter into the field? How old were you?
18.
18.
That's the same.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same as, yeah.
Okay. So you're 18 years old, just out of high school. And anybody in the family ever been in the fire service?
Nope. I'm the first one.
And what did they think of that?
My mom honestly was the funniest one because from 14 to 18, it was volunteer. So she just, when I was like so excited I got the career job, I knew what that meant. And she was like, oh, honey, it's just another, volunteer place. You're not going to be able to make a living, like just really trying to teach me what the fire service was. And she had no idea. So she didn't think it was a real career. So I kind of had to explain that it's actual money, it's actual benefits, it's actual, life that's going to, retirement that's going to continue on. And so confused at first, I would say, but very, very happy throughout my growing career.
Did anybody else in the family try to talk you out of it? I mean, it sounds like you had to educate them as you were trying to get hired at the same time, correct?
Yeah. No, I never had to do any of that. They knew that I've always been very adventurous anyway, so nothing would surprise them.
So let's talk about your very first fire. We're just going to dig right into this because
Yeah, sure.
this is what really is fascinating. You are kind of activated in the field for 3 months or so, and your first fire. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I'll even back up a little bit from there. In my recruit academy, it was kind of it wasn't quite, the department wasn't quite to the point to where they were sending people to recruit academies as just the department. So they would send the couple that they had, they would hire people, send a couple to the community college. So they sent me and another guy from Salisbury Fire Department to this recruit academy, and that was Vic Eisler. That was my buddy. That was my partner. He was from New York. He had to get his certifications redone here in North Carolina, trying to settle down. So he was on B shift, and that's when he was on the squad. Him and another guy was on a squad, and that is one of our line of duty deaths that we had in my very first fire. So we had two. My experience in that as a recruit firefighter was completely just green. So I literally when I told my fire chiefs that I was going to start talking about my story coming out, this is 15 years later, that I was going to start talking about it. I even had to tell them, like, look, I'm going to talk about it from an experience that just I had on this fire scene. And it may be completely different to everybody else's on that fire scene. So I even asked like permission to start talking about it almost, because it is going to be completely different. So honestly, on the fire ground, it was pick up this line, pick up this hose, move it over here, spray in this window, throw this ladder, do these things. And I had no idea what was going on. I was just, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, following all the instructions. And the Mayday went out. Again, had no clue of the reality of what was happening.
Had you done some training on Maydays in your academy a little bit?
They
mentioned
that
it.
went through my head.
Yeah.
That went through my mind of, oh yeah, these happen, right? We train on these happen. We bring them out. If we don't, we open up all the doors and we start over, those kind of just absolutely inexperienced moments I specifically remember going through my head.
And so you're on a line. Is this a single family home or multiple?
No, this was actually a saw millwork.
Okay. Yeah. So large structure, defensive operations kind of going on. And so you're on a hose line and the Mayday comes out.
Right. So you mentioned the defensive, which I preach on in command now, but we did go defensive at one point. So the main bulk of the fire was in the basement of the office area. The office was above. It was kind of the main entrance. And then everything to the far right was all where they did the loading dock and stuff like that. So one of our officers asked, hey, can we go back in this way, kind of cut it off from the loading dock, just make sure that it just stays right here. And that's where they ended up perishing. That floor collapsed. It went crazy through I've never seen fire, never ever, even till now, travel that fast. But when it caught that sawdust, it just went from one end to the other, and they just got caught right in the middle.
So 2 firefighters down with the Mayday?
3 firefighters down with the Mayday.
Okay.
Yeah. One, the captain got pulled out, and he is doing great now. Retired, all the things that comes with, but the other 2 did perish in the fire.
So you're on a line, you hear the Mayday, this is going on. What kind of response did you have to this, or what was kind of going on? Like in your mind, you're saying it's just another Mayday. We drill on these things, and then so now here's the reality. Take us through that.
Right. So reality really didn't hit me until my firefighter that was beside me telling me where to go, everything, all these things. We put the hose lines down, and we go to the ambulance. And he's like, hey, get on. I was like, get on? Like, I'm not even EMT. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? So we get on, we just sit there. And all of a sudden, a stretcher with a firefighter comes on that ambulance. That's when reality hit. So we're ripping gear off, getting everything done, just trying to check the status. And that's when I look him in the eyes, and it's big. So that's the heart-wrenching part.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
reality part. My voice is really shaky right now. I'm trying to hold it back, but it's part of it.
Yeah. So you're young. I mean, you're 18.
Yeah.
You're one real kind of compadre in this whole thing is now on a cot, and you started doing compressions, CPR, right? Doing whatever you could at
Yeah.
that point, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was over airway at the top, and my firefighter that was with me was doing compressions the whole way.
Okay. So what where do you even begin, right? Like,
Yeah.
so did you transport? Are you with them as they transported to the hospital then?
Yeah. Yeah. We
Okay.
went all the way to the hospital, dropped him off there, and that's kind of where we hung out for a little bit. And it's bits and pieces after that as far as what happened, because that's when everything just started settling.
Yeah. What do you remember about, like you said, you're just kind of, I remember this, and then are there things that you've gone back and played in your head at all? And oh my God, I don't remember that. Or I didn't remember that at the time.
Oh, there's plenty of it. There's plenty of moments that we had. Even the other firefighter coming in, I remember him specifically coming in, but I don't remember anybody else coming in. I remember the stretcher coming in, and I remember that there was a flag over top of him that he had already been pronounced well after. But it is so splotchy between then and there, and there was even more moments where I don't even know how I ended up in, but like I guess the fire chief needed somebody and grabbed me. I'm not even sure. This is just one of the memories that I had is I was in one of the like the family rooms, and I thought I was being put in the family room for me and for just a chill moment, try to get out of the atmosphere. And then the other firefighter, Justin's mom, came in, and so I experienced the fire chief tell her that her son had passed away. And so it's like so much going on and just so much to carry all at one time, just process. So.
Oh man, and going back just if you don't mind for a sec to the transport, you're in the ambulance. Did you think that in that moment were you thinking, "Oh, we're going to be able to save him?" Or did you kind of know in that moment he was gone?
He really didn't look terrible. Like he didn't look burned. He didn't look injured hardly at all. So I really had no idea. I obviously wasn't experienced in medical either at all. I mean, that was my very first CPR I've ever done in my life. And so I had no idea. I really had no idea what the outcome was going to be on this. But that's when I knew it was real and it was serious.
Yeah. So you go from this kind of academy where we just mentioned, like, yeah, we trained for Maydays, and it was like, oh, we always pull the firefighter out, and and then
Right.
they get up, and then they
get
do
up
the next,
and they walk around.
right.
Yeah, right.
And so now you're in the hospital, you're having to witness, your chief talk to the family, you're in the middle of all this, and you mentioned, your thought at one point you were going to a room for you. Did that moment ever get to you, like where you're able to just kind of sit and figure out and process, or try to start that kind of processing?
Probably not. Not that I can recall. Like once we got kind of escorted back to the firehouse was full. So I have no idea what the time length was between the hospital and when I got back to the fire station, but it was, I mean, the entire bay was full of people just everywhere. So that was overwhelming too. At that point, his wife came up to me and asked, was there anything else y'all could have done? Is there more? How bad was he? Stuff like that. Just all the questions that nobody had answers to. Nobody.
And I go back to, you're an 18-year-old kid at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not a lot of life experience to help prep you for this. I mean, nobody has a lot of experience to prep you for that.
Right.
And so you're thrown into this, And so let's go through kind of the next phase of this is starting to just kind of figure out what happened and the whys. And so like, take us through kind of the next 6 months. What was going on with you and what did you start to feel? And, anything that you remember within that next kind of 6 month period.
Well, they gave us, if I remember right, a couple weeks off completely. I had a hard time ever leaving the fire station. So I ended up being like made to leave. And, of course we had other departments helping out with that. But, when we got back, it was very different environment. A third of the people were involved with the actual incident. A lot of people stayed after, of course, still putting the fire out. And so there's different parts of involvement where people were and that they want to talk about. And honestly, I stayed quiet most of the time just because I still hadn't processed most of it at all. And I honestly, shamefully almost, have been quiet for this long.
Yeah. Did you ever think of not coming back?
No, I don't know why. No, everybody in the department thought that. Didn't tell me that in the moment, but no, I really didn't. I just thought maybe this is what it is. Maybe this is what the fire service is and you just don't hear about it. Maybe this is just normal. And so clearly it's not. But
Yeah. But that's
that
all
was
you
my
had.
mindset. That's all I had. Yeah.
That's all you had to hang your hat on. So have you really had a chance to process it?
Honestly, yes, I have in a way because other people experienced the same fire. But it really, for me to share my story and what inspired me to share my story is a few years ago, we've been doing our recruit academies just at a bigger bulk in 100% our department, which is fairly new to us. And so I heard through the grapevine that the instructors were sharing my story, and this is why we do what we do. And I was like, why are they sharing my story? I should be sharing my story. And that's pretty much what inspired me to kind of open up. And honestly, writing scripts for conferences and stuff like that has really helped me process most of it. And this is 15 and a half years later.
Mm-hmm. Well, we appreciate you being here and talking about it. Hopefully this helps you a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what kind of things were they saying? And did that bother you at all? Like, other than the fact that you should be the one saying it, I agree 100%. Like, were they conveying the message you wanted to maybe convey yourself?
Or was it even accurate?
Yeah, it was. And it's people that weren't even there. Now, this instructor I have shared my story with, and I mean, he's my training officer and I absolutely love him to death. So yes, he did it right. It just hit me to a point of where, holy crap, why am I not doing this? I mean, it was more shameful on myself than it was on the people that were doing it. They should. The story should be there. They should understand why they're going through the crap they go for so many months. And I mean, just having that personal story in the firehouse, if I wasn't sharing it, it needed to be shared either way.
What is it that makes you feel ashamed? You've used that word a couple times about not talking about it. Like, where does that come from?
Well, it's a mindset that we preach. I mean, from before when I was at Salisbury Fire Department, the mindsets we train all the time. We do all these things and people talk about that stuff all the time. But there's not many people that have the experience that back that talking. And I do. And I just have held it in for so long.
What was it like, though, when you mentioned the inspiration to start talking about it, but actually finding your own voice and being comfortable in your own voice? What was that experience like for you? Once you said, okay, this is my story I'm going to tell, was that uncomfortable at first? And like, kind of how did you find your footing in that?
Yeah, I'm still fairly new in it. I haven't done it on like a big stage yet, which I do plan on doing that in February. So that'll be my first big stage to do that. And it's more of the story is a good story and it'll change a lot of people's mindset in the firehouse. It's whether I can promote that and tell the story correctly to a point to where it does change people's mindset for the fire service. But the first time I ever talked about it was literally off the hip. It was at a camp, a little, I guess it's 12 to 18-year-old girls camp, firefighter camp in Aurora, Colorado. We had like an hour to spare. I literally was just shadowing the program. So I wasn't even really an instructor there. I was just shadowing what this awesome girl was doing with this program. I wanted to bring it back to Salisbury. And so she said, well, we have like an hour to like waste some time. And across every girl's shirt said persevere. And so she was like, we're going to talk about all of our experiences in this, all these female firefighters. And we're going to start with how did you persevere in your career in the very early stages? I was like, oh gosh, I'll go last. So I was like, don't start with me. I need some time for this. So really it was just I was put on the spot. That was the only story that was gonna come to mind. I couldn't even make anything else up. It's just right in my face. And that was the first time I had actually shared my story.
Wow, and what a word to be emblazoned on the shirts, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Quite a connection. Well, and everything, it feels like we talk so much more now about perseverance and resilience, and there can be very like intentional work on those things. Do you feel like over the past 15 years, it's just kind of happened organically for you, or have you been very intentional in trying to like build that perseverance after what happened?
It's definitely been, I think, a build for sure. I've had to go through understanding what happened, understand why I was put in the place that I was put in, just questioning all of that, and just believing that experience is just because I can handle it, and I can move it on to help other people. I mean, I take that as a life lesson too. I mean, that's any experience with my life. I really believe that I go through just to help other people.
Yep, but you got to tell it, right?
Yeah,
And that's why
right.
that's where that's kind of where you're
Right.
like, hey, this is my story. This is, and right away you get the attention of the room, and the perseverance is, yes. I mean, you're 18 years old. That happens on your first fire, and you come back and you're more driven. I mean, obviously from there you just continually educated yourself and applied yourself. So let's dig in. What's the story? I mean, what else do you want people to know about this? Especially, what do you want them to know? Not necessarily about you, but what to take away and how they can apply it to themselves.
Right. So, really, it's grown through my career. I mean, as soon as I'm thinking about going up for engineer or backup driver, that's the first thing I think of is, can I really pump the millwork fire? Can I really handle that? You know, I mean, the next level, lieutenant, can I really be that officer on the line? Could I really take somebody in the millwork fire? I mean, that is literally, and even now, assessing other departments. I mean, people ask me to come in and assess, and that is huge to my heart. Like, are they ready for this? Do they feel like they're ready for this? You can't just say, can you do the bread and butter house? You know, it's, can you do the Salisbury millwork? And especially now, I've never done a critique on the command side, but I can imagine just things that I've heard or that I heard on the fire, things operationally. I can imagine. I can imagine doing command, like being in command of this fire, but I cannot imagine the outcome of that fire, and I'm going to prevent everything I can to do that.
What's the biggest takeaway? Look, you just said you look back at the command side. You look back at probably just, I'm sure you reevaluated your own performance and what you did that day. Is there anything you would have done different?
As far as the millwork fire?
Yeah, personally, yeah, you.
No, I didn't even, like, literally was following. I was a puppet. I was nothing but a puppet. And we as officers have to understand that is what these green firefighters are. These 18-year-olds coming in are literally going to listen to every word you say. It doesn't matter what. Like if they would have told me to go in and do this, I'd have done that. Whatever it is, that's literally what I was going to do. No, I have no idea what I would change, nor do I literally spray water in the window. Yes, sir. Like, how can you can't change that. There's nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we had talked before this call a little bit about the fire, and you had mentioned that literally every decision in your career since then it's like what you were talking about with the promotions. It's like, could I pump at this fire? Could I run command at this? But it's even more in the weeds than that, right? And in terms of like every decision you make is sort of rooted in that early experience. Can you kind of speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so I actually had my first like flashback experience. We had a school fire about probably 6 months ago, and I was sitting in the command unit and in command of the entire incident, and we had firefighters going in. It's just literally smoke showing, um, and they're going in. They're saying high heat, low visibility, hole in the floor, can't find the fire, all of these radio communications that are screaming Mayday without saying the word Mayday. And so even those experiences alone, like that's tactical withdrawal. We need to get out of there. So though even command, that's the position I'm in now, and what I can relate to right this moment is being in command and not letting that happen. I can't sit here and prepare people to take on a line of duty death, but we can do everything to prepare for prevention of line of duty death.
Yeah. So let's dig into that a little bit. What do you want people, you said, are you ready for this fire? And I think if anybody who's listening to this says there's got to be one that sticks out for them personally or in their area, right? Mm-hmm. Would you recommend, hey, take that fire and put yourself in those shoes, and can you handle that? Like, is that where you start with people? I mean, to try to get them to dig into, improving their performance, staying motivated kind of thing?
Yeah, really, I think it all starts in the firehouse. What are you occupying your time with when you're not running calls? And I understand everybody's running thousands and thousands of calls, but there is downtime to train your mindset. And that is huge inside the firehouse. That we don't need to be sitting in recliners and waiting on the call. For us at Salisbury Fire Department, we've got rookie packets where you start out with, 6 months of pretty hardcore a lot of information, and you're tested on that. Now, the first 5 months, you're tested on it, and you have to pass it at 80%. But when you come to the 6th month and you test on all of it, it's 100% pass rate. So you have to get 100% in order to go through your probationary period. So these packets are pretty intense. They're 45 questions a month or so, and it's street tests at the end of it, at the end of each month. It's pretty big, and I think it's the 2nd month dips into like friction loss and nozzle pressures and stuff like that, and like you're preparing them for the next phase that they don't even know they're about to hit,
Mm-hmm.
And so preparing that and making those packets for each level and what that all occupies, doing after incident reports. We do after action plans or after action reports every single fire or major incident that we have. So all of our officers will send in their after action report and detailed telling exactly what they did, exactly what their actions were, their firefighters' actions were, what they did great, what they didn't do great. And then we get the recordings, we compile all the information as battalion chiefs, and we do a full PIR, post-incident report. And then our post-incident reports get reviewed by the division chief, and they send it out to the entire department to learn from our own stuff. So, and then of course we have our monthly training that we have different kind of Mayday. We'll read over different Maydays. We'll read over different close calls. We'll read over different line of duty deaths, and all discuss it in some form, in some matter, and have to sign off on the fact that we did do that with our companies.
And that's embedded in your culture. Was that part of your culture when you first got on?
To a point. The training part, yes. As far as how, like, the organized training, no. Like, organized as a department training, no. That is fairly new within the last 6 years or so. But we've always been known as a training department, and that we have always thrown ladders and laid lines every single day. But as far as it actually being organized and actually put together as a department, that's fairly new.
Which is huge because I know there's people listening to this go, well, you know, that's all fine and dandy, but my guys or my crew, my gal, whatever, they're going to ask, well, why are we doing this? You know,
Yeah.
and you go back to, we're doing this because I was in this situation,
Right.
and just when you don't think you're going to need it, you're going to. And I think I love that, because especially if you look around what's going on in the fire service with lithium ion batteries, there's mass casualty incidents. There's now different types of building construction that's still starting on fire. There are so many different things to learn from. New York had a crane fire. I mean, every community has cranes at one point in them. You know,
Yeah.
do you know, and are you ready to handle that, right? And that's where you're talking about. Like, just put yourself in some scenarios and figure out how we can mitigate them safely. Correct?
Right. Right. We even, like, a lot of people give us a hard time for it, but we really don't care. Fire alarm activations, every ladder truck sets up. And I mean, to the full extent, sets up. We get a roof report and everything. We can be done with the incident, false alarm, we can be done with the incident, and the battalion chief is still on that ops channel waiting on that roof report. That way they get a rep in with a roof report. They get a rep in with any opportunity that they have. I mean, we have dormitories, we have different industrials, different everything. If it's residential, they're throwing the ladders. They're not setting up the aerial, but they're putting it in a place where they can if it goes defensive. You have those options all the time. Like, we run thousands of calls. I think we're on track for 12,000 calls this year. You have so many opportunities to do that. Why are people waiting till the real one is there to set their truck up?
That's so
Yeah.
smart, building those sets and reps. You know,
Yeah.
every opportunity you get, that's great.
Well, let's talk about something that you're really passionate about, and that's relationships. And I'm going to relate the two, because we were talking off camera, as I always do, as Janelle starts to laugh, that, right, you may have people that, oh, I don't want to do that, chief. That's just a waste of our energy and time. And there's maybe it's not that they really feel that. Maybe there's something else going on, right? Like, sometimes it's about communication, why we're doing something and how that can make everybody better. And that's something you're really passionate about, is really trying to talk to people and find out what drives them, right? Or what doesn't drive them, correct?
Right. Right. So my goal is for all of my officers, I have 7 under me, and all of them to have the same passions, right? Like, you want them to operate smoothly. My guys, I cannot complain a bit. They operate so well together, and they call each other out because they can if they do mess up, because they have those relationships. I really, I can't preach it enough that relationships they're not just the firehouse relationships. It's got to grow. It's got to be consistent. You've got to be able to control that and in and out of the firehouse. Now, my biggest promotion for relationships is a lot of people talk about buddy to boss and it being 2 separate things. And I just completely disagree with it. I think there has to be a very good, solid foundation, and it has to be a good mixture of them both, because I can tell my best friend, my best buddy, very hard information and them take it well. And so that's a mixture of both. You can have those hard conversations much, much easier if you have that relationship with them. That's why I get such good and high performance out of my guys, is because the expectations are there. It's consistent. It's not changing. It's not going anywhere. And they perform at that level every single time. The small, minute moments, I have to say something, it's corrected pretty quick. So they know what to do. They know what I'm expected. I've trained them on my job, so they understand. I mean, I've trained them even to the command boards that we use. so that they know what I'm looking for this. When you say this, I mark this. When you say this, I mark this way. They really know every part of my job. I know every part of their job. I've been there. So it's just being completely transparent, completely open with all of that. And that is a daily task in that relationship.
So here's the $1 million question then. As a new officer and some other people that are new officers, you got that foundation. What is the first thing you do? What do you build that foundation on then?
So I really start like personal. Like I just want to know who you are specifically. Like, who are you? What's your family like? What do you like to do in your downtime? Those little things. Like I remember being a new officer. I'm like, okay, these are the things that I learned in this conference. I have to do this and this. What is your 1-year plan? What is your 5-year plan?
Mm-hmm.
But my thing at this point in my career is, how can I support them? How can I get them where they want to be? I do want to know where you want to be. Like, where do you want to be in 5 years? If this person, and I even asked this to my firefighters, if this person says, I want to ride backwards my entire career, cool, that's great. I'll support it in however I can. But you have this other firefighter right beside him that says, I want to be a fire chief one day. You're going to train them completely different. Very much the same on the fire ground, but very different in the management world. So you're going to push them to different conferences. You're going to push them to different classes and in different ways. So you manage them completely different. So figuring out who they are personally and help them track through their entire career is how you start that foundation.
So let's go back to building your own foundation for a second, if you don't mind. So
Yeah, sure.
Processing this and, the trauma of your very first fire, how have you worked on the relationship kind of with yourself since that and the recovery part of that?
Well, I really give myself a hard time whenever like I said before, whenever I promote every single promotion, like I'll bad talk. Are you really ready? Are you seriously ready? Like, there's no way. And so I'm always in conferences. I'm always trying to better myself. I make myself go to 2 conferences a year. I'm involved with help run a conference here in Charlotte. But just going to those and really pushing myself keeps me on track, keeps me really going.
Well, did you do EAP? Did you was that any therapy, anything like that? Did that ever come to your mind, or is it something that was offered at all, or anything you've ever kind of
Yeah,
thought about?
so I do remember specifically, like, I do remember walking into the debriefing room. Now, whether it was the day of or 2 weeks later, I really don't remember when it was, but I do remember walking into that room, full room, and the fire chief going, that one, that one right there. And I was already like overwhelmed and walked out. Like it's not even like, I don't want this to be about me. This is not at all about me. So I literally, I remember walking out of the debriefing, never heard any of it. Yes, I was offered EAP. I was offered all the things. For me, I'm big in my faith. I do believe that there's a greater God, and that's really how I've gotten through any experience in my life, honestly.
Yeah, and you were talking about some very solid friendships,
Mm-hmm.
and family. You talked about family relationships at all, and the other side about just building resilience. Like, what else do you do to help you stay resilient?
Just work every third day.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do it for me. No, they just experience in the fire service in general has built my resilience. One call at a time, one ride up at a time, anything in the firehouse has built that completely. Just simply doing the right things, mainly just trying to focus on doing the right things all the time has built that.
Yeah.
I
So
think,
it's not.
and I think it's important to note that sometimes it is about the individual, though. Even if you weren't the one specifically injured in an incident, or the family that's going through something in the most extreme possible scenario, it's okay, for people to acknowledge what has impacted them. And I think that's such a classic thing that we hear from firefighters, right? Is we're just doing our job,
Yeah.
It's not about me, but it's okay. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to recognize that something does impact you. I guess I just want to say that for our listeners too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think your therapy is it sounds like your therapy is every single day. Just
Mhm.
getting up, being a little bit better, and trying to make those around you better is
Right.
Yeah.
the way that just watching you light up when you say, "Hey, I go every third day. I bring it. I expect my crews to do the same thing." And I think it's because you feel uh, maybe obligated in a way
Right.
to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah,
And
that's
everybody processes totally different too.
yeah.
And that's like what's so important to recognize. It's so individual. Like if that's how you process and that helps you, that's awesome.
Right. After our incident, we had, I mean, a lot of people leave. A lot of people couldn't handle it mentally. Um, I process things much, much different, and I always
Mhm.
have. And yeah, the every day is the kicker for me. It keeps me going.
Well, that's the essence of why you're here, and the essence of why we're talking about this is
Yeah.
what drives you to be better every shift. And for you, that your first fire, um, wow. Thank you for sharing all this, by the way, and thank you for you got grit, man. You got some grit where you just this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to improve every single day. And so I hope our listeners can really sense the passion that you have to improve and to make those around you better. And if you're listening to this, take a watch. You can watch this on YouTube, and you can see just it's not about you; it's about everybody around you, and making those relationships and building those relationships. And so I think everybody, hopefully, listen to this is going to take that and they better start, you know, stepping up their game a little bit because this is all very, very uh, that's why we're here, like is really to try to improve every single day and use these things to inspire us, which you have. So thank you for sharing, but you're not out of the woods yet. We still got to dig a little bit more into you. What else kind of motivates you, drives you, makes you laugh in life. And we do that by putting you on the hot seat. And Janelle
Yay.
is she's the colonel with the questions and comes up with these. Her mom has actually been a great inspiration for the show. Thanks for that, Mom, along with some of our other guests. So maybe even Chief Martin might have had a hand in one of these questions. We'll see. We'll see what we got. Fire them off for us, Janelle.
All right, I'm going to start with just when you are having a rough day, just a standard everyday, just got to blow off some steam. Like, do you have a go-to like hobby or something that just really helps you reset?
Yes, wind therapy. I That's what I call it. But I ride sports bikes.
Nice,
So yeah,
nice.
mountain riding, going fast.
What do you ride?
I ride a Yamaha R1.
Okay. Yeah. And how many miles do you think you usually go?
Our mountain trips usually about 300 miles.
Okay. That's pretty good. That's good wind
Yeah.
therapy. Your weather down there helps for that, though, a little bit
Yes.
too, doesn't it? Yeah. And the
Yes.
mountains. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
What is a bucket list item that you'd like to do within the next year?
Hmm. I'd love to jump out of an airplane. I'd like to go skydiving. I don't know. I think it's be fun, but my better half does not agree with it. He is a pilot and doesn't think that anybody should jump out of any plane. So there's that.
Well, I love his confidence. He's like, wait a minute, I'm a pilot. I'm a good pilot. You don't need to jump out of this
You
plane
don't need to
at
do
all,
that.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right, let's have some fun with this one. What fictional family would you like to be a part of? Like, can you even imagine like yourself? Did you have a TV show or a movie growing up? You just thought it was like the best family, or just would be the most fun family to be a part of?
Oh gosh. See, I just don't even watch TV like that, and I don't even don't know. I entertained myself. I was even the kid outside in the woods. Like, I can't even think of anything right off the top of my head on that.
You know, this is 2 shows in a row where we've asked questions where our guests were like, I'm too busy learning. I don't watch TV.
Yeah.
I really don't. Like, I literally, on the main floor in my home, I do not have a TV at all. Like, if we go and watch TV, it is intentional. We go and do a family movie night, and we have to go downstairs to do that. So we literally don't even have a TV in there.
Well, what's the favorite family movie?
We like anything. Well, you gotta remember, I have 3 kids that are 10 and under, so they make me watch anything with anything clean, pretty much. But we love Finding Nemo. We watch that one over and over again. The Bee Movie, stuff like that.
Cars? Is Cars a good one?
Oh yeah, they like Cars, but the Fire and Rescue is pretty awesome. That version of it. So same actors.
If you had to dress in a costume for any reason, what costume are you gonna wear?
Oh man. Well, thank God I'm working Halloween this year, so I'm gonna dress up as a firefighter. But usually we like to do the family ones. So like last year, the girls were cheerleaders, and then Easton, my oldest, was a football player. But I was a football player too. It's like you got to just kind of change it up. But my my goal this year was going to be a farmer, because I have a Dalmatian, and I was going to make her a cow because it would just, be funny.
That's great.
So, Chief, our final one, we like to bring this all together. How are you personally working to get better?
Well, I just finished my degree in this past May. Doing that as a mom is quite the task, but I also understand that's a piece of paper, and I still have to continue learning myself. And like I said before, just continuously getting in conferences, understanding what other departments are doing and why they're doing it, understanding other perspectives, and pushing myself in that. Not necessarily pushing myself in rank like other keep pushing. I'd like to sit still where I'm at for a little while. We'll see how long that lasts. But yeah, just constantly learning from other people and other people's experiences on what they do in a firehouse, what they do operationally, and see if I can apply that to Salisbury.
What's the biggest takeaway you want people to get from your story here and from listening to this podcast?
So my biggest push is just having the right mindset in this career. It's not a career that you can just lay back and wait for the fire to come before you know what you're doing, or before you even know if you know what you're doing. Getting out there, getting the reps in whenever it doesn't matter, so that when it does, you're there, you're on it, and you can be proud of something later.
I think it's awesome. That's exactly what we're about here on the Better Every Shift. Thanks so much, Chief, for sharing your story, sharing your motivation, and sharing your passion to improve. For those that are listening to us, you can also view us on the Fire Rescue One YouTube channel. You can also email us at bettereveryshift@firerescue1.com. Please rate, review the show, share it with your crew, share it with your family and friends. And in the words of the motivational and inspiring Chief McColloh, make sure that you try to learn every day, improve every day, build your relationships, talk to each other, and most importantly, learn something, do something, and share something to make you and those around you better every shift. Thanks for listening, everybody.